Jason Bennett hurried across the Westridge University campus. He was late for calculus class again. The morning air was cold, and his breath made little clouds as he ran. Professor Adams was strict about being on time, and Jason couldn't risk getting on his bad side. His scholarship depended on good grades. He slipped into the classroom just as Professor Adams turned to the whiteboard. The only empty seat was near the back, next to a girl he hadn't seen before. As Jason sat down, trying to catch his breath, he couldn't help but glance at her dot. She was pretty in a strange way. Her skin had an odd bluish tint that made her look almost ill, but her features were perfect, too perfect, like someone had designed her, rather than her being born naturally. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she stared at the professor with unblinking eyes that seemed to reflect light differently than normal eyes should. "Sorry I'm late," Jason whispered, pulling out his notebook. "I'm Jason." The girl turned to him slowly, as if calculating her response. "I am Zira," she said with an accent he couldn't place. Her voice had an unusual musical quality to it. Professor Adams cleared his throat loudly, and both of them turned their attention to the lesson. Throughout the class, Jason found himself stealing glances at Zira. She never took notes, but seemed to absorb everything the professor said. When Professor Adams asked a particularly difficult question about differential equations, Zira raised her hand. "The solution requires understanding that the rate of change is proportional to the difference between the current value and the equilibrium state," she said. Her explanation was flawless, but oddly formal, like she was reciting from a textbook. "Class," Jason gathered his courage. "Hey, that was impressive. Are you a math major?" Zira tilted her head slightly. "I study many subjects. Physics is my main interest." "Cool. Are you new here?" "I haven't seen you before." "Yes, I am an exchange student." She hesitated before adding, "From very far away." "Where from?" Jason asked, falling into step beside her as they left the building. Another pause. "It would be difficult to pronounce in your language." Jason laughed. "Try me." "Perhaps another time," she said with a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Over the next few weeks, Jason noticed more strange things about Zira. She never ate in the cafeteria. She wore gloves even on warm days. Sometimes, when she thought no one was watching, her movements became fluid in a way that seemed impossible for normal joints. One day after class, he saw her sitting alone under a tree, staring at a small device in her hand that looked like no phone he had ever seen. "What's that?" he asked, approaching her. Zira quickly slipped the device into her pocket. "Nothing important. Want to grab coffee?" Jason asked, surprising himself with his boldness. Zira looked confused. "I do not drink coffee. Tea then, or just to talk?" She considered this for a moment. Talking would be acceptable. They walked to a quiet spot near the campus lake. Zira seemed fascinated by the ducks, watching them with intense concentration. "So where are you really from?" Jason asked. "I'm guessing not Earth." He meant it as a joke, but Zira froze. Her eyes widened slightly, and for a second, Jason thought he saw them flash with an inner light. "What makes you think that?" Her voice was careful, measured. "Just kidding," Jason said quickly. "But seriously, you're different. The way you talk, the way you move. That blue tint to your skin. Everyone says it's some rare condition, but I'm not so sure." Zira was quiet for so long that Jason thought she wasn't going to answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft. "If I told you the truth, you would not believe me." "Try me," Jason said again. Zira looked around to make sure no one was nearby. "I need somewhere private." 20 minutes later, they were at Jason's small off-campus apartment. His roommate was away for the weekend, so they had the place to themselves. Zira stood in the middle of the living room, looking uncomfortable. What I am about to tell you must remain between us, she said. Jason nodded, suddenly nervous. You are correct. I am not from Earth. She held up a hand as Jason opened his mouth. Please, let me finish. My home is a planet you would call Vexilia, orbiting a star approximately 47 of your light years from here. Jason stared at her, waiting for the punchline. When none came, he laughed nervously. Right, and I'm from Mars. I can prove it, Zira said. She took a deep breath and reached up to her neck. Her fingers found something Jason couldn't see, and she made a twisting motion. The air around her seemed to shimmer, like heat rising from hot pavement. Her features blurred and then sharpened again, but now they were different. Her skin was clearly blue, with faint patterns that seemed to shift and change with her breathing. Her eyes were larger, with pupils that expanded and contracted like camera lenses. Her fingers, now free from gloves, had one fewer digit than human hands, with joints that bent in both directions. Jason fell back onto the couch, his heart pounding. Holy ... This is my true form, Zira said, her voice now carrying harmonics that no human voice could produce. I am part of a study program. My people have been observing Earth for many decades, but this is our first attempt at direct interaction. I was sent to learn about humans firsthand. Jason couldn't speak. His mind raced through every alien movie he had ever seen, every conspiracy theory about Area 51. But none of them had prepared him for this moment. An actual alien standing in his living room, looking nervously at him like she was afraid he might freak out. You're afraid, Zira said, taking a step back. I should not have revealed myself. No, Jason found his voice. I'm not afraid. I'm just ... shocked. This is incredible. He stood up slowly, his legs shaky. Can I ask you questions? Zira's posture relaxed slightly. That would be acceptable. How did you get here? Do you have a spaceship? Why Earth? Are there others like you here? What's your planet like? The questions tumbled out of Jason's mouth. A sound came from Zira that took Jason a moment to recognize. As laughter, it was like wind chimes and running water. One question at a time, she said. We have much to discuss. As the night grew deeper, they talked for hours. Jason learned about Vexilian technology, culture, and history. Zira explained how her people had developed interstellar travel centuries ago and had been studying other civilizations ever since. We usually remain hidden, she explained. Most species react with fear to the unknown. But not me? Jason asked. Zira smiled, a genuine smile this time that made patterns of light dance across her blue skin. No, not you. You reacted with curiosity. That is rare and valuable. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting golden light through the apartment windows, they realized they had talked through the entire night. Both had expected their meeting to end in fear and misunderstanding. Instead, it had become the beginning of something neither of them could have imagined. The most unexpected visit had indeed left them both speechless, not with fear, but with wonder. The morning sun streamed through Jason's apartment windows. Empty pizza boxes and soda cans littered the coffee table. Jason rubbed his eyes, wondering if last night had been a dream. But when he looked across the room, Zira was still there, sitting cross-legged on the floor. Her blue skin glowed softly in the sunlight. You didn't sleep, Jason said, yawning. My species requires less rest than humans, Zira replied. She had returned to examining Jason's collection of science fiction novels. These stories about aliens are ... interesting. Very different from reality. Jason laughed. Yeah, we tend to imagine aliens as either wanting to destroy us or save us. And which do you think I want to do? Zira asked, her head tilting in that curious way of hers. Neither. I think you just want to learn about us. Jason stood up and stretched. I need coffee. And we should probably figure out what happens next. In the small kitchen, Jason made coffee while Zira watched with fascination. She had shifted back to her human disguise in case anyone looked through the windows, but her movements were less guarded now that Jason knew the truth. So why Earth? Jason asked, pouring himself a mug of coffee. There must be more advanced civilizations out there. There are, Zira confirmed. But your species is unique in many ways. You progress very quickly. In just a few hundred years, you went from simple machines to computers and space travel. My people took thousands of years to develop similar technologies. Is that good or bad? It is. Concerning to some of my people. They worry that humans might develop interstellar travel before developing the wisdom to use it properly. Zira picked up a spoon, bending it in ways that would be impossible for human fingers. Others, like my research team, find humans fascinating. Your art, your music, your capacity for both destruction and compassion. Jason sat at the small kitchen table. So I'm just a research subject to you? Zira put down the spoon. You were. Now ... I am unsure. Forming personal connections was not part of my mission parameters. Mission parameters? Jason raised an eyebrow. You sound like a robot. I assure you, I am not a machine, Zira said. A hint of humor in her voice. Though we do have those as well. Jason almost choked on his coffee. You have robots too? This is too much. Over breakfast, Zira explained more about Vexilian society. They were a peaceful species, focused on knowledge and exploration. They had overcome war and resource scarcity centuries ago. Their world was smaller than Earth, but had 3 moons, creating complex tidal patterns that had shaped their evolution. Can you show me what your world looks like? Jason asked. Zira reached into her pocket and pulled out the strange device Jason had seen earlier. It was smooth and oval-shaped, with no visible buttons. When she held it in her paw, it lit up with a soft blue glow. Suddenly, a 3-dimensional image appeared above it, a planet with swirling blue and green patterns, orbited by 3 small moons. This is Vexilia, she said. The image zoomed in, showing vast cities built in harmony with natural landscapes. Buildings spiraled upward, connected by transparent tubes. Flying vehicles moved in orderly patterns between them. It's beautiful, Jason whispered. It is home, Zira said simply. She touched the device again, and the image changed to show Vexilians walking through what appeared to be a market. They were similar to Zira in their blue skin and general shape, but with variations in their patterns and features. Are there others like you here on Earth? Jason asked. Zira nodded. A small research team. We are scattered around your world, each studying different aspects of human culture. I was assigned to study your educational systems and scientific understanding. And what have you learned so far? That your professors know much less than they think they do, Zira said with a small smile. Your physics models are incomplete, but impressive, considering your level of development. Jason laughed. Yeah, well, not all of us can zip around. The galaxy. We do not zip, Zira corrected. Our method of travel involves folding space-time to create temporary passages between distant points. Like wormholes? Similar, but more controlled. Your scientist Einstein was on the right track, but he missed several key principles. Jason shook his head in wonder. This is so much to take in. What happens now? Are you going to erase my memory or something? Zira looked shocked. Of course not. Such technology exists, but it is considered deeply unethical to use without consent. Besides, part of my mission is to assess human reactions to the knowledge of extraterrestrial life. And how am I doing so far? Jason asked. Better than expected. You have not screamed, tried to capture me, or called your government authorities. Give me time, Jason joked. The day is still young. They spent the rest of the morning talking about smaller things. Jason explained human concepts like jokes, sarcasm, and pizza. Zira was particularly confused by human music, finding it both primitive and strangely moving. In the afternoon, they walked through a quiet park. Zira, now back in her human disguise, wore sunglasses to hide her unusual eyes. She stopped often to examine plants and insects with intense interest. Your world has such biodiversity, she said, watching a butterfly land on a flower. Vexilia has fewer species, but they tend to be more complex. Do you miss home? Jason asked. Zira was quiet for a moment. Yes, but this experience is worth the separation. As they walked, Jason realized something. Hey, we still have classes tomorrow. Are you going to keep going to school like nothing happened? Of course, my mission continues. Though now I have the advantage of your assistance. She looked at him curiously. Unless you would prefer to distance yourself from me. I would understand. Jason laughed. Are you kidding? Find out aliens exist and then just go back to worrying about calculus homework? No way. I'm in this now, whatever this is. Relief showed in Zira's expression. I am glad. It would be difficult to continue without speaking freely with you. As the sun began to set, they returned to Jason's apartment. Zira needed to send a report to her team about her day's observations, though she assured Jason she would keep their personal interaction confidential for now. I should return to my assigned dwelling, she said, preparing to leave. I have much to process about today's events. Same here, Jason said. See you in class tomorrow, Zira nodded. Tomorrow. At the door, she paused. Jason, thank you for not being afraid. Many humans would not have reacted as you did. Many humans haven't met you, Jason replied with a smile. After Zira left, Jason sat on his couch, staring at the ceiling. 24 hours ago, his biggest worry had been passing his calculus midterm. Now he knew that aliens were real. They were already on Earth, and one of them was his classmate. His phone buzzed with a text from his roommate Kyle, saying he'd be back tomorrow. Jason tried to imagine explaining all this to Kyle, but couldn't find the words. How do you tell someone that everything they know about humanity's place in the universe is wrong? As he finally drifted off to sleep that night, Jason wondered what other surprises Zira might have in store. One thing was certain, his life would never be the same again. Jason woke to the sound of his roommate Kyle returning. He heard the front door slam and Kyle's heavy footsteps in the living room. For a moment, he panicked, wondering how he would explain everything that had happened with Zira. Then he remembered. She wasn't there. Hey, man, Kyle called out. You alive in there? Jason rolled out of bed and opened his bedroom door. Kyle stood in the living room, dropping his duffel bag on the floor. Yeah, just sleeping in, Jason said, trying to act normal. How was your weekend? Boring, family stuff. Kyle flopped onto the couch. What about you? Do anything interesting? Jason almost laughed. Just studying. The usual. You're a terrible liar, Kyle said, eyeing him suspiciously. What's up with you? You look different. Just tired, Jason said quickly. I should get ready for class. In the shower, Jason wondered how he would keep something this big from his roommate. He and Kyle had been friends since freshman year. They didn't keep secrets from each other. But this wasn't his secret to tell Dot when Jason arrived at calculus class. Zira was already there. She sat in her usual spot, looking perfectly human. If he hadn't seen her true form, he would never have guessed she was from another planet. Good morning, she said as he sat down beside her. Morning, Jason replied. How are you, doing with everything? I am well, Zira said. Though I spent much of the night considering the implications of our interaction. Before Jason could respond, Professor Adams began the lecture. Throughout the class, Jason found it hard to focus. The equations on the board seemed trivial compared to what he now knew about the universe. After class, they walked together across campus. The day was cloudy, and a light rain began to fall. Zira looked up at the sky with delight. Water falling from the atmosphere still fascinates me, she said. On Vixilia, our precipitation is less frequent, but more intense. You mean it doesn't rain much, but when it does, it pours? Jason asked. Exactly, Zira smiled. Your English expressions are quite efficient sometimes. They found a quiet corner in the campus library where they could talk without being overheard. Zira had questions about human relationships, emotions, and social structures. Jason tried his best to explain concepts like friendship, love, and family. So friendship is a non-reproductive bond based on mutual enjoyment and trust? Zira asked, taking notes on what looked like a normal tablet, but was probably alien technology. That's one way to put it, Jason said. But it's more than that. It's about having someone who gets you, who you can be yourself around. Like how I can be my true self with you. Jason nodded. Exactly. Zira considered this. Then we are friends? I'd say so, Jason replied with a smile. Unless your people have different definitions. We have similar concepts, though our social structures are more community-based than your individualistic society. Zira put down her tablet. There is something I need to tell you. The serious tone in her voice made Jason sit up straighter. What is it? My communication device is malfunctioning, Zira said quietly. I need to send regular reports to my research team, but the last 2 attempts have failed. Can't you fix it? Jason asked. Not easily. Some components are not available. On Earth, if I cannot re-establish contact soon, there are protocols that will be activated. What kind of protocols? Zira looked uncomfortable. A recovery team would be sent to extract me, assuming my cover had been compromised or I was in danger. And what would happen to me? To anyone who knew about you? Zira hesitated before answering. Standard procedure would involve memory adjustment technology. You'd erase my memories? Jason felt a chill run through him. Not me personally, Zira clarified. And it is not complete erasure. More like replacing specific memories with more mundane alternatives. You would remember me only as an ordinary exchange student who returned home. Jason sat back in his chair, processing this information. That's not okay, Zira. You can't just mess with people's minds without their permission. I agree, Zira said quickly. Which is why I'm telling you now. I need your help to repair my communicator before the recovery protocols are initiated. How long do we have? 5 of your Earth days. After that, my team will assume something has gone wrong. Jason ran a hand through his hair, thinking, what do you need? Some of the components might be available in your university's physics or engineering labs, Zira explained. Others we may need to improvise. I have a friend in electrical engineering who might be able to help, Jason suggested, then paused. But that would mean telling someone else about you. Zira looked worried. That would complicate things. The more humans who know, the greater the risk of wider exposure. I trust this guy, Jason said. His name is Alex. He's brilliant with technology and definitely wouldn't freak out. He's been talking about aliens existing since I met him. Zira considered this. Let me see the communication device first. Perhaps we can repair it ourselves. That evening, they met at Jason's apartment. When Kyle was at basketball practice, Zira brought a small silver case that she opened on the coffee table. Inside was the device Jason had glimpsed earlier, along with several strange objects that seemed to shift and change as he looked at them. This is my standard field kit, Zira explained. She picked up what looked like a smooth metallic egg. This is the communicator. It uses quantum entanglement to transmit data instantly across any distance. Quantum entanglement? Jason repeated, like spooky action at a distance. Einstein thought that was impossible. Einstein was limited by the technology of his time, Zira said. The principle is sound, but the application requires materials not found on Earth. She showed him how the device was supposed to work, explaining the basic principles in terms he could understand. The problem, she believed, was in the power source, which had degraded faster than expected in Earth's atmosphere. We need something that can generate a specific energy frequency, she said. Your electrical systems are too crude, but perhaps we could modify something from your physics lab. Jason thought for a moment. What about the quantum computing lab? They're doing some cutting-edge stuff there. Possible, Zira agreed. But how would we gain access? Leave that to me, Jason said with confidence he didn't entirely feel. My roommate Kyle works there as a research assistant. I might be able to borrow his key card. Would that not violate your friendship trust? Zira asked, looking concerned. Jason hesitated. Yeah, it would. You're right, he thought again. We'll have to come clean to Kyle, and probably to Alex too. If we want his help. Zira looked doubtful. Are you certain they can be trusted? As certain as I can be about anyone, Jason said. Kyle's been my best friend for 2 years, and Alex is. Well, Alex would probably be thrilled to meet an actual alien. Just then, they heard a key in the lock. Kyle was back early. Zira quickly gathered her equipment, but before she could hide it, Kyle walked in. He stopped in the doorway, staring at the strange alien technology spread across the coffee table. What the hell is that? Kyle asked. Jason and Zira exchanged a look. There was no easy way to explain this. Kyle, Jason said slowly, there's something we need to tell you. You might want to sit down. Kyle stood frozen in the doorway, his eyes fixed on the strange objects on the coffee table. Jason could almost see his friend's brain trying to make sense of what he was seeing. Sit down, Kyle, Jason said, gesturing to the armchair. This is going to sound crazy. Kyle moved slowly to the chair and sat down, never taking his eyes off Zira and her equipment. What is all this? Some kind of science project? Jason took a deep breath. Kyle, remember all those late nights we stayed up watching sci-fi movies, and you said you believed aliens were real? Yeah, Kyle said slowly. Well, you were right, Jason pointed to Zira. This is Zira. She's not an exchange student from another country. She's from another planet. Kyle stared at Zira and back at Jason, then burst out laughing. Very funny, guys. What is this? Some kind of prank for your YouTube channel? It's not a prank, Zira said. She looked at Jason, who nodded encouragingly. Then she reached up to her neck and deactivated her human disguise. The air around her shimmered, and Kyle's laughter died instantly. His face went pale as Zira's true form was revealed. Blue skin with shifting patterns, larger eyes, and hands with fewer fingers than humans. Kyle jumped to his feet. Holy ... You're really ... Yes, Zira said simply. I am not human. For a moment, it seemed like Kyle might run from the room. Jason tensed, ready to stop his friend if necessary. But then something unexpected happened. Kyle's face broke into the biggest smile Jason had ever seen. This is amazing, Kyle shouted, throwing his hands in the air. I knew it. I always knew aliens were real. This is the greatest day of my life. Jason and Zira exchanged surprised looks. You're not scared? Jason asked. Scared? Are you kidding? Kyle couldn't stop grinning. This is what I've been waiting for my whole life. He turned to Zira. Can I ask you questions? Like 1,000,000 questions? We don't have time for 1,000,000 questions, Jason sighed, though he was relieved by Kyle's reaction. Zira's in trouble. Her communication device is broken, and if she can't fix it, her people might send a team to get her and erase our memories. That got Kyle's attention. Erase our memories? That's not cool. I agree, Zira said, which is why I need to repair this. She held up the egg-shaped communicator. We need parts that might be found in your university's quantum computing lab. Kyle's eyes widened. Where I work? That's perfect. I have access. What do you need? First, we should call Alex, Jason suggested. We need his expertise. 20 minutes later, Alex arrived at their apartment. He was a tall, skinny guy with wild hair and thick glasses. When they explained the situation, his reaction was similar to Kyle's. Initial disbelief followed by excitement when Zira revealed her true form. The physics of this is mind-blowing, Alex said, examining Zira's equipment with careful hands. This technology is centuries beyond ours. Can you help fix it? Jason asked. Alex studied the communicator. Maybe. The principles are way advanced. But some of the components look similar to what we're working with in the lab. What exactly is broken? Zira explained the issue with the power source. It requires a specific frequency to activate the quantum link. We might be able to adapt one of the quantum oscillators from the lab, Alex suggested. They're experimental, but the frequency range might work. That equipment is worth thousands of dollars, Kyle pointed out. We can't just take it. We don't need to take it, Alex said. We just need access to it for a few hours. Kyle, you have after-hours access, right? Kyle nodded. Yeah, but if anything happens to that equipment, I'm dead. Nothing will happen to it, Jason assured him. We'll be careful. That night, the four of them sneaked into the quantum computing lab. The campus was quiet, with only a few security guards making their rounds. Kyle used his key card to get them inside. The lab was dark, except for the blinking lights of various machines. This is it, Kyle said, leading them to a sealed room at the back, the quantum computing chamber. It has to be kept at near absolute zero temperature. He opened the door, revealing a room filled with complex equipment. In the center was what looked like a large metal cylinder surrounded by tubes and wires. That's the quantum computer, Alex explained to Jason and Zira. And that smaller unit next to it is the oscillator we need. Zira approached the machine, her blue skin reflecting the blinking lights. This is primitive compared to our technology, but it might work. She opened her case and took out several tools that seemed to move and change shape in her hands. Working. Quickly, she began to connect her communicator to the quantum oscillator. Pass me that cable, she said to Alex, who handed her a thick black wire. This is so cool, Kyle whispered to Jason. We're helping an alien use our tech to phone home. Just keep an eye on the door, Jason replied nervously. We don't want security finding us. For the next hour, Zira and Alex worked together, combining Earth technology with alien components. Jason and Kyle kept watch, jumping at every sound. From the hallway, finally, Zira stepped back. I think it's ready. She held up the communicator, which now had several wires connecting it to the quantum oscillator. When she pressed a symbol on its surface, the egg-shaped device began to glow with a pulsing blue light. Is it working? Jason asked hopefully. Zira's face showed concentration. The quantum link is establishing. I'm sending a message to my research team now. They all watched as the blue light pulsed faster. Then suddenly, it turned green. Connection confirmed, Zira said with relief. Message sent. Just as they began to celebrate, they heard footsteps in the hallway outside. A beam of light swept under the door. The security guard was making his rounds. Hide, Kyle whispered urgently. They ducked behind equipment as the door to the lab opened. The security guard's flashlight beam swept across the room. For a heart-stopping moment, the light paused on the quantum oscillator with Zira's device still attached to it. Jason held his breath, certain they were about to be discovered. But then the guard's radio crackled with a message from another guard, and he turned away to answer it. A moment later, the door closed, and they heard the footsteps moving away. "That was close," Alex whispered. "Too close," Zira agreed. She quickly disconnected her communicator from the oscillator. "But it worked. I've informed my team of the situation." "What did you tell them?" Jason asked. "The truth," Zira said. "That my cover was compromised, but not in a negative way. That I've made contact with humans who have shown remarkable understanding and assistance." "And," Kyle prompted, "what did they say?" Zira smiled, her patterns shifting with what Jason now recognized as excitement. "They want to meet you." 2 days later, Jason paced nervously in his apartment living room. Kyle and Alex sat on the couch, both looking equally anxious. Tonight was the night they would meet Zira's research team. What if they decide we're a threat? Jason worried out loud. What if they still want to erase our memories? Zira said they were interested in meeting us. Kyle reminded him. That's good, right? Besides, if they wanted to wipe our memories, they could probably do it without meeting us first, Alex added, which didn't make Jason feel any better. The clock on the wall showed 9:30 p.m. Zira had told them her team would arrive at exactly 10 p.m. She had gone to meet them at their landing site outside the city and would bring them to the apartment. Should we have cleaned more? Kyle asked, looking around at their messy student apartment. I mean, these are aliens. First impression of humanity and all that. I think they care more whether we try to dissect them than whether we have dirty dishes in the sink, Jason replied. At precisely 10 p.m., there was a soft knock at the door. The three friends exchanged nervous glances. Jason took a deep breath and went to open it. Zira stood there in her human disguise, but she wasn't alone. Behind her were three other people, 2 men and 1 woman, all with the same slightly too perfect features and unusual stillness that Jason now recognized as signs of their disguises. May we come in? Zira asked formally. Jason stepped aside. Of course. The 3 strangers entered the apartment, looking around with obvious curiosity. Kyle and Alex stood up, trying to appear calm, but failing miserably. These are my friends, Zira said to her team. Jason, Kyle, and Alex. They have been helping me repair my communicator and have kept my identity secret. The tallest of the newcomers stepped forward. I am Krell, lead researcher of the Earth observation mission. His voice had the same musical quality as Zira's, though deeper. These are my colleagues, Nara and Vex. The woman and the other man nodded in greeting. It's an honor to meet you, Jason said, unsure of the proper protocol for greeting aliens. The honor is ours, Krell replied. In all our years of observing Earth, we have never revealed ourselves directly to humans. This is unprecedented. Why? Now? Alex asked. Why us? Necessity at first, Krell admitted. Zira's situation required intervention. But her reports about your reactions have been ... intriguing. You didn't react with fear or hostility, Nara explained, her voice softer. Then Krell's. You offered help instead. This suggests a level of openness we had not anticipated in humans. The room fell silent as the 3 Vexillians looked at the 3 humans, and the humans looked back. It was a moment unlike any in human history. 2 intelligent species meeting face to face in a small college apartment. Perhaps we should speak more comfortably, Krell suggested. He reached up to his neck, and his human disguise shimmered away. The others followed suit. In their true forms. The Vexillians were similar to Zira, but with distinct differences. Krell was taller, with darker blue skin and bold patterns. Nara was smaller, her skin almost turquoise with delicate swirling marks. Vex was stocky for a Vexillian, with geometric patterns that seemed to pulse with his breathing. "Wow," Kyle whispered. "May we sit?" Krell asked. Jason nodded quickly. "Yes, please." They arranged themselves around the living room, the Vexillians on the couch, the humans bringing chairs from the kitchen. For a moment, no one seemed to know what to say. So, Jason finally broke the silence. "What happens now? Are we in trouble for knowing about you?" "No," Krell said firmly. "While this situation is unexpected, we have protocols for limited contact scenarios. Your discretion so far has been admirable. But there is a decision to be made," Nara added, "about how to proceed." Vex, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "Our standard procedure would be to conclude Zira's mission early and remove all evidence of our presence." "Including our memories," Jason said. "Yes," Max confirmed. "That would be standard procedure." "But," Krell interjected, "Zira has proposed an alternative. A limited cultural exchange program." Jason looked at Zira in surprise. She smiled at him, her patterns shifting in what he now recognized as nervousness. "What kind of cultural exchange?" Alex asked. "You three would serve as official human contacts," Zira explained. "You would learn about our civilization, and we would learn more about yours through direct interaction rather than just observation." "Like ambassadors?" Kyle asked excitedly. "In a very limited capacity, yes," Krell said. "This would be an experiment. If successful, it might lead to wider contact in the future. The alternative," Nara said gently, "would be to end all contact and restore your original memories." "That's not much of a choice," Jason said. "Of course we want to remember this, to know the truth." "Even though you can never share it with other humans?" Vex asked. "This knowledge would have to remain secret for many years, possibly your entire lifetimes." The three friends looked at each other, a silent conversation passing between them. "We understand," Jason said finally. "And we accept. All of us," Kyle added. "Definitely," Alex agreed. Krell nodded. "Then it is decided. The exchange program will begin immediately." For the next 2 hours, they talked. The Vexillians shared information about their world, their society, their technology. They showed holographic images of their home planet, their cities, their art. In return, the humans tried to explain Earth's diversity, its conflicts, its potential. "Your species is young," Krell observed, "but promising." "We make a lot of mistakes," Jason admitted. "All intelligent life does," Nara said kindly. "We have made our share as well." As the night grew late, Krell announced they needed to return to their ship. "We cannot remain in the open for too long. Even with our disguises, extended contact increases the risk of detection." "When will we see you again?" Jason asked. "Zira will continue her mission at your university," Krell explained. "The rest of us will maintain our observation posts around your world. But now, we will be in regular contact through Zira. And perhaps, occasionally, we might arrange another meeting like this," Nara added with a smile dot as they prepared to leave. Krell turned to the three humans. "What you have done, accepting Zira, helping her, accepting us, it gives us hope for the future of our species' relationship." "It's just being decent," Jason said. "Anyone would do the same." "No," Zira said softly. "Not anyone. That's why you three were chosen." With final goodbyes, the Vexillians activated their human disguises and left the apartment. Zira stayed behind. For a moment, "Thank you," she said to Jason, "for everything." "Thank you for trusting me," Jason replied. "For trusting us." After Zira left, the three friends sat in stunned silence. "So," Kyle finally said, "we're alien ambassadors now." "Looks like it," Alex agreed. Jason stared out the window at the night sky, thinking about the vastness of space and all the worlds that might be out there. Just a week ago, he had been a normal college student. Now he was part of something much bigger. You know what's funny? He said, "When I first met Zira, we were both speechless for different reasons. She was afraid I'd freak out about aliens, and I was just trying to work up the courage to talk to the pretty new girl in class." Kyle laughed. "And now we're making history, even if no one will ever know it." "Maybe someday they will," Jason said. "Maybe we're just the beginning." Outside, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter than before. Somewhere up there was Zira's home world. And now, in some small way, Earth and Vixilia were connected, not by fear or conflict, but by friendship and understanding. All because of an unexpected visit from an alien classmate.